Chicago Cubs just finished another season not getting the results the franchise would like, considering the roster the team continues to field year after year. With some big player decisions on the horizon and a loaded farm system, there is no better time for the Cubs to make the moves necessary to not only become a playoff contender, but a World Series threat. And today, I'm going to be the one making those decisions to allow the Cubs back into the postseason. This makes the 12th rebuild of the Rebuilding October series, which is a series where I rebuild a new team every day across the month of October. So whether you're curious about your favorite team or interested in how every team will approach the offseason, this series for you. And with that, let's get the Cubbies back atop the playoff picture. However, before we get too deep looking at potential additions to the team, we have to see which players will be walking out the door in free agency. Cody Bellinger is by far the biggest name leaving in free agency after declining his player option in this fictional world. If you had watched the previous video to this one in the series, you would know that Bellinger is making his way to Cincinnati, which creates a massive hole in the outfield and first base slot. Bellinger resurrected his career in Chicago, posting an 815 OPS over the two seasons in the Windy City, averaging 22 homers and 88 RBIs. While his underlying numbers aren't necessarily supportive of that production over the long term, you cannot deny how good Bellinger is at his peak. Another Cub leaving in free agency is Kyle Hendricks. The right-hander had an absolutely abysmal year in his age 34 season, and with younger players on the roster and in the farm system, it's time to see the 11-year Cub make his way into free agency, bringing back a guy with a 5.92 ERA over the course of 29 appearances in 2024. It's just really hard to rationalize. Another veteran leaving in free agency is lefty reliever Drew Smyly, who will be declined in his mutual option. While Smyly was able to post a respectable 3.84 ERA in 2024, there's plenty of reasons to worry about Smyly moving forward, and there are just simply better options available in free agency for the crucial lefty reliever spot. After that, we have David Bodie, who is facing a $7 million club option prior to the 2025 offseason. Bodie has proven to be a pretty solid option through limited time throughout his career, but unfortunately for Bodie, he really doesn't have much of a role for this team and finished the year in AAA. Over the course of his career, Bodie has posted a 711 OPS, which is equivalent to a 90 OPS plus. It's a bit of a painful guy to see go because he is definitely serviceable, but for the price and the non existent role, there's no need to keep Bodie around. A player that can stay on the squad is Jorge Lopez, who has quietly posted a 2.89 ERA across 53 innings in 2024. Lopez is extremely streaky year to year as a reliever, but he has earned another contract based on his performance in 2024 alone. And the final player set to hit the free agent market is Brad Wick, who just made his return to pitching in 2024. However, he was never able to crack the major league roster, and it only makes sense to let the lefty reliever leave in free agency. On the prospect side of things, oh boy, are the Cubs loaded. And not only are they loaded, but they're loaded with MLB ready talent. Starting with Matt Shaw, he is an exciting third base prospect that finished the year raking for the team's AAA affiliate. Shaw's primary strength is his bat, which continues to drive the ball to all fields against both handedness of pitchers as well as against any pitch type. Combine that with some solid speed, and you're a super exciting prospect in the making. His defense, in particular his arm, is a little fringy. After all, he was drafted as a second baseman. But with Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson playing up the middle for the Cubs, it makes sense to get some reps at third base. However, with the Cubs making the move for Isaac Paredes at the 24 deadline, it makes his path to the majors a little cloudy, but hopefully he can bust through at some point throughout the year. Next is Owen Cassidy, an outfield prospect for the Cubs who continues to flash his big time bat with some of the most eye popping exit velocities in the game, which projects to a lot of homers at the major league level. He does struggle with making consistent contact, leading to a few more strikeouts than you would like. But whenever you consider the numbers this guy has put up combined with the frequency he walks at, you can accept a few strikeouts from time to time. Cade Horton is the next big prospect that could have an impact at the major league roster in 2025. With a plus fastball and one of the best sliders in the minor leagues, it's hard not to get excited about Horton when looking at him in the minor leagues. However, Horton's injury to his shoulder sidelined him for much of the stretch of the season and would likely require him to start this year in the minor leagues, with room for him to make the majors in due time. Another name that is very exciting for the Cubs organization is Moises Ballesteros. Ballesteros has an extremely exciting bat that has led to him getting moved really aggressively through the Cubs system. Through his time through the minors, that swing has allowed him to post an 826 OPS across AA and AAA last season in 124 games. The problem for Ballesteros is that he really isn't a natural catcher. A catcher with a big bat is far less common than a first baseman, and if he turns out to be a first baseman, that's far less valuable. Ballesteros has a decent arm and hands, but his transfer and feet are really lacking, which allows for base runners to steal on him easily. However, with a bat like that, defense can be ignored at some points. James Triantos makes the fifth top 100 prospect the Cubs have just waiting in the wings of AAA. Triantos' path to the minor leagues has not been as smooth as some of the other names on this list, but the tools are still evident when you watch him play. His bat to ball skills are still excellent, and he has some solid hands and a decent arm. He struggled with quickness, which has resulted in him from moving from third to second base, and due to the Cubs' strong middle infield at the major league level, could even see him move to a corner outfield spot. And the final top 100 guy the Cubs have waiting in AAA is Kevin Alcantara, who possibly has the highest ceiling of any of the players on the list, despite being the lowest ranked, albeit the 67th prospect in the minors. After making the move to the Cubs in the Anthony Rizzo trade, he has done well to post a near 800 OPS in every single season since. Combine that with over 20 homers per season, while having the athleticism to stick in center, although he probably will get moved to right in the majors, he makes as exciting of a prospect as anybody in the minor leagues. He has had some stints where he's been overly aggressive in the minors, making him susceptible to strikeouts. But again, it's one of those things where you can accept it with all the other talent that he has elsewhere in his game. That leaves the Cubs with an interesting decision to make this offseason. Do they sit around and wait for some of these top minor league talents to make it to the majors? Or do they use those prospects to form a super team through trades? Or even yet, mix a little of the two worlds, grabbing key free agents and trade chips while retaining some top talent to mix with the MLB roster? Well, in this rebuild, we chose the latest of those decisions. The first free agent signing will be switch hitting outfielder Anthony Santander, who casually cranked 44 homers in 2024. While that is undoubtedly a career season from the switch hitter, to expect a plus season at the plate would be an understatement. Defensively, he's a liability, but there are plenty of options within the organization to solve that when it comes to moving around players later in the game for the best defensive fit. Plus, he's going to be playing alongside PCA, so he really doesn't have to be doing all that much. The next free agent signing the Cubs will be going after is Max Scherzer, who is at a much different stage of his career than what we would like to remember him as. The Cubs wouldn't be signing Scherzer with the intent of him being the ace of the squad or even a top three starter within the team. The hope would be for him to bring that boat of postseason experience that he has and allow him to do his thing potentially one last time. He would give the team more assurance to the back end of the rotation, which does have its question marks. And if he gets injured, the Cubs have the organizational depth to not take that much of a hit on the performance side. And then the final signing of the video would be for Wandy Peralta, a lefty reliever with some really high upside to replace Drew Smiley. Peralta doesn't have the underlying numbers you would love, but the Southpaw has been able to outperform those numbers for some time, and you would like for that to continue in 2025. And the final move of the video would be for the Cubs to exchange James Triantos for Pete Fairbanks from the Tampa Bay Rays. Since the beginning of the 2020 season, Fairbanks has casually enjoyed a 2.89 ERA with a 2.71 FIP while striking out over 12 batters per 9 innings. It would give the Cubs another shutdown reliever at the back end of the bullpen, which would dramatically help shorten games for them while giving up a single prospect that really doesn't have a place in their future plan. That leaves the final roster as Miguel Amaya at catcher, with Michael Busch at first, with Nico Horner at second, Swanson at short, with Isaac Paredes at the hot corner, who could easily be replaced by Shaw if he continues to struggle as we get into the season. Ian Happ will man the left field spot, with Pete Crow-Armstrong in center and Santander in right, with Suzuki at DH. Bethencourt would be the backup catcher, Mike Tauchman as a fourth outfielder, Patrick Wisdom, who you would need to see put this bat to use, and Nick Madrigal as a backup infielder. Shota Imanaga, Jamison Tyone, and Justin Steele would headline this rotation, with Max Scherzer and Javier Assad bringing up the rear, with room for Jordan Wicks and Cade Horton to make the rotation through injury or other means if necessary. What this rebuild does is makes the immediate MLB roster better while allowing the top prospects room to make the major league roster and give the team time to assess the team at the trade deadline, where you could see even more prospects dealt for star players. It's tough to find the perfect solution for the Cubs that balances the future of the organization with the present, but with this roster, it's entirely possible the Cubs are crowned National League Central champions for the first time in a full season since 2017.